A very warm good evening to our viewers. Welcome to the Evening Review Show. I'm Matthias Aufiku, editor of the Namibian Sun newspaper. Of course, we had a very busy and somber weekend. That's, of course, the burial of the late President Hage Geingob that took place in the capital city over the weekend at the Heroes Acre National Shrine, that is. Of course, a lot of tributes were paid to the late president, both local and also international. Also, just to cap off what has been a very somber 3 weeks of national mourning. And we have in studio tonight Honorable McHenry Venaani, the leader of the official opposition, also president of the Popular Democratic Movement. Good evening and welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here with you.
Yeah. Well, we have a lot of issues to touch base on tonight. Firstly, just a summary from your side on how you think things went this weekend with the burial, from a planning perspective, from a unity perspective, and I think from all angles you can think of.
Well, I think Namibians have a reason to pat themselves at the back. Namibians from all walks of life, from all leadership stratas, from the ordinary man on the street, the whole country. During these 3 weeks, we have conducted ourselves as patriots of this great country, regardless of our differences, both religious, political, social, and otherwise. The organization was quite superb. I must give government credit on the fact that the day was not marred by partisanship. It was more of a national leader being buried, and that was a good thing. We really pitched the notch very high, and I'm sure the world leaders that spoke to me that were at the event and those that were not there were were admiring the unity that we portrayed as a country. So I think we have done well there. Yeah. Of course, the protocol here and there were some glitches of foreign leaders arriving late, sitting longer in vehicles, things that a person like me would know that it's a don't in diplomacy. But then, of course, it's a learning curve. One could only advise that we must do what we call mock planning, that if an event of such a magnitude happens in the country, we must have a plan that it's like the English would have had a day when the Queen dies. They have planned, I think, for 20 years ago. Yeah. So sometimes we must do those planning, that what if the founding president, God forbid, passes on, or a president dies in office, how do we react? So that we don't come there. One of the things that I spoke to the Prime Minister quite, albeit very briefly and jokingly, is that you can't let foreign dignitaries, presidents, sit for 9 hours without even a sweet or something to give them. Yeah. Those are weak administrative challenges that we had, but generally the day was a successful day. We sent the president of our country, Hage Geingob, with flying colors, and I think the unity of our country was displayed during his funeral. Yeah.
Of course, you were one of the officials who paid the tribute at the final memorial service on Saturday at the Independence Stadium. I think what was of interest to many, and it still continue to really cause public debate, is your address to the German president, who was also in attendance, Mr. Frank-Walter Steinmeier. You spoke of the genocide issue as to how they are handling the issue, and well, you seem not to have been happy there. But before we go into that, a lot of people are asking, Honorable Venaani, was this the right moment for you was this the right platform to bring this up?
The platform was the correct platform. There was never any other platform where I would meet President Steinmeier in the same audience on the soil of Namibia on a critical matter that Germany has been dragging their feet on. In fact, even members, senior government leaders were proud of me because I was the only person who had that room and leverage to be able to raise such an issue in such a way. I didn't want to embarrass the president of Germany, but I poked him. I poked a reaction from him. Had I not said that reaction, it will be left for history to judge whether he would have reacted that way or not. It was the correct platform. We are burying a state president of our country. One of the issues that were unfinished by his own presidency is the issue of genocide. Germany was not coming forth to tell us when are they planning to conclude this thing. The timing was politically correct, and I think we as a country, we have done ourselves very well. Now we have a response from Steinmeier that we have not been hearing for a number of months. So Germany was being asked, what are you saying about this thing? They don't They just allow negotiators to talk, and they are very mum on what they want to do. So I think the opportunity was the right opportunity.
Yeah. What do you expect to really come out of all this?
Look, people are saying this is just a money-making scheme. We are saying, and because I am part of those nucleus group that started this whole battle from the onset, the secretary to Rirako, the young person to Kerina, and all these people, I know the motive. Our vintage point is that to get a respectable deal. We must not only think in terms of monetary value, but we must think of exchange programs that make sure that young Namibians in this country can have the same technological advancement that Germany has. For example, if we increase the quantum in such a nature that to say that in terms of technology, Germany will take 100 students every year to their best universities in areas of mechanical engineering, in areas of industrialization, and help young people. Those exchanges would live longer than money. And we are saying the quantum must be improved so that opportunity is created within that framework. If Germany, say, commits money and say that, okay, in terms of monetary value, we are going only to give 30% on projects on agriculture, on agricultural advancement, on mechanization, on hospital infrastructure and this. But the 70% will go to young people for them to have exchange programs. There, where we can say, if Germany is in need of 100,000 nurses, then all nurses that have trained in Namibia must be able to have 20% of them must be able to enter that market. We would want to have, for example, Namibia has solar energy. We have sun, renewable, but we don't have the technology in renewables. We would want to say, okay, Germany agrees with Namibia, train 100 Namibians even to be able to produce solar panels in Namibia. That way, Namibia can be at the pitch of industrialization. So we would want to use this compact in a way that it advances Namibia's interest, socio-economic interest going forward. Now, if you look at what the Germans have paid to the Jews and what they are proposing to pay to us, you see there is a big variance, and you wonder why. 2, Germany spends on one castle, renovating one historical site in Germany, 600 million euros. They want to pay 1.1 billion euros in 30 years. So we are saying, let's look at those low-hanging fruits where we as a country can benefit more. For example, take a region such as Zambezi that has a lot of water, the Zambezi River, and say that, okay, we are going to put a school of agriculture right in Zambezi where people would farm with irrigation because the water is near. That thing would have a sustainable benefit for generations to train agriculturalists in our country. So we are saying, let's put those projects on the table that would pivot Namibia as a future industrial country through this compact. But what the Germans are offering is that they are doing a ping-pong diplomacy on this matter. They are saying, we don't really recognize genocide, but we recognize a historical wrong. Fine. So the semantic, to them they're saying genocide is semantic, but genocide can't be semantic under international law. So they are winning. Secondly, they are saying, we are ready to apologize. Fine. They are apologizing. International law commitment, they don't want it. They want to apologize. But then when it comes to the compact, they are ready to pay very little over a longer period of time. And what we are saying to us is not about the money. For us, it's about the compact must be improved in such a nature so that there is greater exchange programs, greater agricultural advancement, greater technological advancement between our two countries, exchanges, that this country can become a tractor-producing nation that can be able to manufacture its own tractor, that can be able to manufacture solar energy, can be able to produce their own seeds, maize and so forth. And Germany has the capacity, and there is no country in the world that has the political dexterity, the political experience that Germany has in terms of dealing with genocide. They should just do that. But all we are saying is that they want no international commitment on genocide, 2, apologize and pay little. And we are saying, if we stand back on the genocide, if we stand back on an apology, at least come to the party and broaden the scope so that in other areas of technological advancement we can be able to advance the people of this country going forward.
Yeah. Of course, from a domestic perspective, one of the biggest, the fundamental criticisms for this has been the setup of our negotiating team. But now we are calling for a better deal. Where's this better deal going to come from?
One has to become a realist. There are so many avenues. There are so many things that could have been done correct. But even if you approach the International Court of Justice today to get a declarator on Germany, the International Court of Justice or any reasonable arbitrator will tell you that if Germany has come to the table to talk, why don't you conclude the talks? So there is no better opportunity. I disagree with a lot of people. The new people that have come on board on genocide, they are saying this thing must be taken to International Court of Justice. I hear those concerns. They are valid. But at this point in time, you have a country which is the largest economy in Europe, the fourth largest economy globally, ready to talk. We are saying we should have done it better, bringing chiefs in, bringing leaders to come on board. That has not been done. But we are here. So we can't restart the engines of talks now. The engines are already started. What we should do is that Namibia, and that's why I've been calling on President Bumba now, and I've been doing it to his predecessor, my dear brother, Geingob, to say, call a national dialogue in the country so that we discuss what is the bottom line. There is an opportunity that shouldn't be lost. And that I say because I have started this thing with all those elders. And I know that we went to New York, we fought this thing in New York, we lost in New York. Paramount Rukoro went to New York, I had discussions with him, he lost in New York. So there are many avenues that has been attempted. We would have loved the configuration of the negotiations to be otherwise. Yeah. But it is like this at this point in time. And in diplomacy and in negotiations, you make best of a situation. There is an opportunity that shouldn't be lost because even the geopolitics of Germany is changing. We are seeing the right parties in Germany taking over, parties that would say we will not even accept any deal with the people of Namibia. Yeah. So there are a number of metrics that we need to realign ourselves with. But at this point in time, there is a negotiations on the table. Let the Namibians that are negotiating there negotiate in the best interest of our country. For example, I raised this matter during the first introduction of the joint declaration. I said, how do you leave people in Botswana, people in Botswana that are in Botswana because they have fled the genocide, and leave them outside and you are receiving any benefits here? Today, the Germans, in an addendum that I'm hearing from Germany, have included to say that the people of Botswana should be taken care of. So there is frameworks to improve. But we can only improve if all Namibians come together and say, the disagreements that we have on the approaches will not take us anywhere. Yeah. But we should also seize the moment. So I've seen one of the media was saying, no, Venaani is calling for renegotiations. I'm saying renegotiations should be based on how to improve the deal. Because there are a lot of wrongs that were done domestically, that our government didn't recognize a lot of people. But it doesn't mean they have not moved. They have moved. And on the table, Germany must move, and we must move, so that we get a respectable deal and move forward. Yeah.
Of course, President Stein indicated that perhaps, yes, the time is right for an apology. But of course, from an Namibian perspective, it doesn't end there. So in terms of timelines, it's something we don't really hear coming up.
The reason why I had to take Steinmeier on that international platform, if we have to say, is because Germany is reneging on a timeline. This is what they did to our first negotiator, Ngavire. They took Ngavire, Ambassador Ngavire, with all due respect, and may he so rest in peace. They took Ngavire for more than 5 years, disagreeing on the terminology of genocide. Then later they say, okay, Ngavire, we give in. We have a historical responsibility. And Ngavire, rightly so, thought he won because it was a sticking point. Germans have experience in these matters, and they are very well prepared, better prepared than our delegations that are negotiating there. Then they say to Ngavire, okay, we are ready to pay reparation. For 6 years, they were timing Namibians to say that, okay, we would keep them on a leash until we give in. If we give in, we give them 1 million. Then the Namibian delegation thought they won. When Ngavire came home, we used to have private meetings on this thing. I said, if you have given in to the Germans on the terminology on genocide, you have given a big win for them. If they have given in on paying reparation, the big of giving in on the genocide should be commensurate to the quantum. So the Germans now are changing the tactics of the negotiations. Now what they are tactically doing correct, they have moved from 1.1 billion. I am understanding from Germany, from my sources in Germany, that we are already at 1.7 billion. But if you look at the whole cost of the projects that are there, it's too little. We are saying, where are the exchange programs? I want to be able to take every 100 people in industry, young people that are graduates here, and let them go into the universities of Germany, go do their master's program. So you want that quantum to be increased to an amount that can be able to put Namibia and help Namibia to become an industrialized nation. We would be fools to say we want money. We don't want money. We just want young people to be absorbed, to have more knowledge, so that this country can be able to produce green hydrogen, for example. So that everyone at green hydrogen must be Namibian, because we have the resources to take all our children to school to be able to run that. So that every Namibian can work in the oil sector. If we brought in that base and every Namibian can be able to benefit, then our people wouldn't have died in vain.
Yeah. Would you say our expectations are reasonable, considering everything that's on the table?
I think our expectation is more than reasonable. If you look at what the Germans have paid the Jews, if you look at what the Germans have done to atone the Jews, and not that they have done then, what they are still doing, the Jewish are still benefiting from this thing 50 years later. Ours is 30 years. And the Germany could offer, out of 4,000 farms they took land. They only ready to give 100 farms back. They took 4,700 farms away from the communities of this country. They are ready to give 100. So they are saying, let's broaden the scope so that in these 30 years, a number of things can be done. That we develop virgin lands, that we develop, even the whole of Kavango can be developed with these resources. This is a Namibian project. The communities that have died are Hereros and Namas, so be it, they should be first direct beneficiary, but it shouldn't exclude other people in a momental process, because had the Hereros and the Namas not died, this country wouldn't have been colonized. So all of us are victim of this thing. It has changed the course of our history in one way or the other. And all of us must be able to pivot ourselves to say that, okay, as a citizen, what is it that we can do to become an industrialized nation? And I think it's an opportunity. Our expectations are quite very fair, because Germany is a superpower. As an economic superpower, you can't say you renovate your own castle, your own church for 1 million euros, and you're saying 80 and 90% of two communities that were wiped out through a genocide are worth that 600 million in 30 years. You are lowering the level of the real value of our people.
So the longer this drags on, how do you see it affecting the bilateral ties between the two countries, if at all?
Well, I don't think Germany is very much worried about the longer it drags, because they have been pumping in money in the country. And the bilateral relation, I mean, they are the biggest supplier of bilateral aid in the country by numbers. So the longer it drags, it weakens our position. And that is why I'm saying there are also new dynamics that we should look into, the new dynamics of the geopolitics in Germany itself. Because you have also right-wingers that are saying this thing should never be entertained. So we are between a rock and a hard place, if I have to say it. But of course, we have the moral case. Our case is moral, it's just, it's legal. We could go to the ICG, we could get declarators, we can prolong the battle. But there is an opportunity to bring this thing to a conclusion, to create a win-win. And all we are saying is that Germany, on the negotiating table, move an inch, move a few inches so that you take this thing going forward.
So in terms of bridging the two extremes as far as the affected communities are concerned and government is concerned, how do we do that?
Well, if I was President Bumba, I would have called a national conference or a workshop, bringing all Namibian parties and say, guys, we might disagree on we don't disagree on the history. We don't disagree on what needs to be done. We might disagree on what should have been done. But as a country, what is our national interest? What is our bottom line? So that we agree on the bottom line that, okay, if the negotiations goes this way, this is our bottom line. If it is this bottom line, we'll take this thing as our government to ICG. We can do that. We can say, Namibian government, if the Germans are offering this, let's go to ICG, go lose the case and win it that way. But the whole problem in this country is that we are not talking to one another. Every faction thinks that they have the moral might and the moral right to speak. We must respect that there is a government. Whether the government is making mistakes and we are critiquing government with its mistake. But the Germany, Steinmeier can engage me. at a political level because he meets opposition leaders of other countries.
Yeah.
But I have a president, I have a government. I might not like Bumba, but he's the president of the country. He might not like me, I'm the opposition leader of the country. So I must give him respect. But him as the elder of the house, he must also call his people together and say that, guys, this is where we are, this is the geopolitics, this is the international law, this is all the metrics must be put on the table, and then we agree that, guys, what is the best out of all this?
Yeah.
Now, if you ask any person who is affected, what is what is it that you want?
Yeah.
From this one say I want 20,000 farms. There are no 25,000 farms. This one say no, I want $1 million in my pocket. So we do not have a national policy on this thing.
Yeah.
How do we want to benefit from it? Then we have a middle line to say, okay, we might have disagreements, but this is our bottom line. And our bottom line is national interest.
Yeah. Well, one of the people who, of course, took issue with Germany's position on the ongoing Israel court matter was President Geingob. And what stood out was when he said at once that Germany is failing to draw lessons from the past, considering its where it stands, its position on this Israel matter. So what does that symbolize, not only from a political perspective, but from a morality perspective? If you were negotiating with them and you see their position on Israel now, and you are busy negotiating on your own genocide with them, do you think there's a need to change approach?
Well, the tactics in diplomacy, there's always tactics and approaches. And I think one of the things that I said is that we needed a negotiator, a lead negotiator who was more robust than Gaviro. Gaviro was a good diplomat, but the negotiations at this level do not need a subtle diplomat. You need a robust person that would go behind enemy lines and tell the Germans what they need to hear, what they wouldn't ordinarily want to hear.
Yeah.
I have not seen that happening. You are correct, because Germans' approach, they must be very sensitive. Because what Steinmeier did, Steinmeier went to Tanzania and apologized to the Tanzanian. Of course, the Tanzanians suffered the brutality of the Germans, but it was not through a genocide like we have experienced. So they are thinking, because it's an African country, Tanzania has accepted it, and he came to Geingob, sneaked into Geingob's funeral, and now the Namibians must accept. The reason why I pointed out to him that we are very alive to the fact that German chancellors never came to this country. Even my good sister, Angela Merkel, I said this to her, that you are coming to Angola. You have no interest. Germany does not have bigger interest in Angola than in Namibia. You have more historical responsibility here. She agreed with me, but they never came here.
Yeah.
The reason why they didn't come here, they were avoiding this matter. They are avoiding this matter. So Germany should be more sensitive as a country that first did genocide to the Jews. Second, seeing what the Jews are doing to the Palestinians, and they are having a guilty conscience to the Jews because they killed the Jews. Yeah. Therefore, they are not ready to tell the Jews that they are wrong. I'm a friend of Israel, but I tell Israel, I have lost an international job. I was the vice president of IDU. I was unceremoniously booted out because I said, even if I'm a friend of Israel, I will never allow Israel to permeate genocide on innocent people in the name. Of course, Hamas is wrong by killing the Israelis, but for what they are doing in Israel, two wrongs don't make right. There must be moral authority in the world. So Germany is having a guilty conscience that they have against the Jews. Whatever the Jews, they are bound to support whatever the Jews are doing. We, Jews, are our friends. There are many Jews in the United States that are supporting our causes, Herreros, in this country. Jews are our friends. But I'm telling these very rich, big people to say that, hey, what is happening in Palestine? Listen to the moral language of the world. Listen at least to the ICG. You can't just say you are right all the time. It's wrong for Hamas to kill. It's wrong for Hamas to cause terrorism to women and children. We condemn Hamas on equal measures. We want Hamas to transfer those hostages. But do you need to kill 30,000 people because 1,000 of yours were killed? So we are saying Germany cannot now support blindly the Jew Republic, what they are doing, just because they have a guilty conscience. They must also look at us, weaker nations, that they are only protecting the Jews because the Jews are a stronger nation in terms of their financial muscles and so forth across the world. So they are looking down on us. And President Geingob was correct to say, how should we view you if you have a case against us of genocide, and the same people are committing genocide and you are saying those that are committing are correct. It means you are perpetuating a policy.
Yeah.
So I think to answer your question broadly is that Germany must come to the party to be sensitive to this matter.
Just lastly, as we wrap up, I see my producers indicating that time is up. Briefly, the way forward, as far as genocide is concerned, timelines from our part.
I personally would pen a letter to Bumba to engage him on this matter, to share my views with him, some that I didn't share with you. And I would plead that Namibia must get its house in order. Yeah. We have a strong case, but we are divided. This division is working in the interest of the Germans. Yeah. So in terms of timelines, if we get our position together as a country, it's us to accept or not to accept an apology. Yeah. And we will not accept half a deal. But that half a deal shouldn't be determined by Venaani alone, shouldn't be determined by Bumba alone, or by one chief or the other chief. Let's all come together, have a day, spend 1 day or 2 days, and workshop on our national bottom line. Yeah. And fight from that national bottom line, that if plan A doesn't work, let's move to plan B. But it should be a consensus building exercise internally in the country. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Honorable Venaani, thank you very much for your time this evening.
Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure and all the best for your work.
Thank you.
Well, to the viewers, that's it from the Evening Review team. Thank you for staying tuned. See you again tomorrow, same time, same place.